What if Cersei Lannister was exiled to Essos after the Sept of Baelor? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. The green flames still dance behind Cersei's eyes as she stands at the window of Maegor's Holdfast. Below, the ruins of the great Sept smoke like a funeral pyre. The wildfire burns for hours, consuming stone and flesh alike. She watches the carnage with cold satisfaction until a raven arrives from Old Town. The master's hands shake as he reads the message aloud. Word of the Sept's destruction spreads faster than wildfire itself. Every great house will know by morning. Every lord will understand what Queen Cersei is capable of when cornered. But something is wrong. Tommen should be here, accepting the crown she cleared for him. Instead, her son lies broken on the stones below his window. The sight of his small body makes her chest tighten. She killed hundreds to secure his throne, and he threw it all away with one step. Heavy footsteps echo through the corridor. Cersei turns from the window as the doors burst open. Sir Kevan Lannister strides into the chamber, his face grim as winter. Behind him march a dozen Lannister guardsmen, their swords drawn. "Uncle!" Cersei keeps her voice steady. "You should be celebrating. The Faith militant is ash. The High Sparrow burns with his sparrows." Kevan's eyes are hard as steel. "Along with my son. Along with hundreds of innocent souls. Lancel chose his path when he joined those fanatics. You murdered him." Kevan's voice cracks with grief and rage. "You murdered them all." Cersei lifts her chin. "I saved this kingdom from religious tyranny. They would have destroyed House Lannister, piece by piece." "You are the destroyer here," Kevan signals to his men. "Seize her." The guards hesitate. These are Lannister men, sworn to protect the royal family. But the Sept of Baelor burns outside their window. The ash of hundreds drifts through King's Landing like snow. "I am your queen," Cersei says. "Tommen is dead. The crown passes to me by right. The crown passes to no kinslayer." Kevan steps closer. No child killer. No mad woman who burns the holy places. Cersei's hand moves toward the hidden dagger at her hip. But the guards are too many. Too close. And something in her uncle's eyes tells her this moment was always coming. Meanwhile, in the courtyard below, another complication arrives. The gates of the Red Keep groan open as Olenna Tyrell rides through with 200 men bearing the Rose of Highgarden. The Queen of Thorns moves like a woman half her age as she dismounts her horse. "Where is she?" Olenna's voice carries across the stones. "Where is the murdering bitch who killed my granddaughter?" The Tyrell soldiers spread through the courtyard, their steel bright in the firelight. They outnumber the remaining Lannister guards 2-1. More importantly, they have nothing left to lose. Margaery is dead. Loras is dead. Mace is dead. The proud line of House Tyrell burns with the Sept. In the throne room, the surviving members of the small council gather like vultures. Grand Maester Qyburn speaks in whispers with Sir Gregor Clegane. Both men understand their fates are tied to Cersei's. Lord Mace Tyrell's empty chair seems to accuse them all. Qyburn clears his throat. "Your Grace, perhaps we should consider—" "Consider what?" Cersei snaps. "Abandoning the woman who gave you power?" "I merely suggest that discretion might serve us better than defiance." The doors explode inward. Olenna Tyrell enters like an avenging fury, her walking stick striking the floor with each step. Behind her, Kevan Lannister leads his guardsmen. The Queen of Thorns and the Hand of the King present a united front that surprises everyone. "Cersei Lannister," Olenna's voice cuts through the air like a blade. "You will answer for my family's blood." Cersei straightens on the Iron Throne. The twisted metal feels cold beneath her hands. "I answer to no one. I am Queen of the Seven Kingdoms." "You are a mad woman with a crown." Olenna steps closer. "And your reign ends today." Kevan moves to flank the throne from the other side. The small council has voted. Unanimously. Voted on what? Cersei's eyes dart between them. On your fate, Kevin says. Death was considered. Lord Randil Tarley argued for it strongly, but wiser heads prevailed. Olenna smiles, but there's no warmth in it. We decided exile would serve justice better. Death would make you a martyr to some. Exile makes you nothing. You cannot exile a queen. We can exile a kinslayer. Kevan's words hit like hammer blows. A child killer, a woman who murders innocents in their holy places. The throne room fills with armed men from both houses. Tyrell Roses and Lannister Lions stand together for the first time in years, united in their hatred of what Cersei has become. Qyburn steps forward hesitantly. My queen, perhaps if we negotiated terms. Terms! Olenna laughs. The terms are simple. Leave Westeros forever, or burn like your victims did. Cersei looks around the throne room desperately. These are supposed to be her allies, her family, her subjects, but she sees only disgust in their eyes. Fear. Hatred. Jaime, she whispers. Where is Jaime? Your brother rides north, Kevan says. He does not know what you've done. When he learns, he will understand our choice. The words cut deeper than any blade. Even Jaime, her other half, her golden twin, will turn away when he sees the ashes of King's Landing. You have 1 hour, Olenna says. Pack what you can carry. Say your farewells to the dead. Then you sail east, and you never return. And if I refuse, Kevin draws his sword. Around the room, 24 blades whisper from their sheaths. Then you join your son, and your victims, in death. For a moment, Cersei considers it. Death might be easier than exile, quicker than wandering foreign lands as a beggar queen. But something deep inside her rebels against the idea. She is a lioness of Casterly Rock. She will not be cowed by roses and lesser lions. Very well. Cersei rises from the Iron Throne for the last time. I will go. But remember this moment when dragons come from the east. Remember that you cast out the only queen strong enough to face them. She descends the throne steps slowly, her head high. The men part before her like water before a ship's prow. But their eyes follow her every step. At the great doors, Cersei turns back once. The Iron Throne sits empty now, waiting for another claimant, waiting for someone else to bleed for the privilege of ruling 7 fractious kingdoms. This is not over, she tells them all. Queens do not simply disappear into the night. I will remember. I will return. Olenna taps her walking stick against the floor. Perhaps. But not to this throne. Not to these kingdoms. What you destroyed today, you destroyed forever. The great doors close behind Cersei with a sound like thunder. Outside, King's Landing still burns. The Sept of Baelor is ash and memory. Her son lies cold in the courtyard below. And somewhere to the east, across the narrow sea, a new life waits. Whether that life brings redemption or revenge remains to be seen. The Lannister galley cuts through the choppy waters of the narrow sea like a golden knife. Cersei stands at the prow, watching the eastern horizon swallow the last traces of Westeros. Behind her, King's Landing burns in memory. Ahead, the free cities of Essos wait with promises she hopes they can keep. The ship carries what remains of her household, 20 loyal guards wearing Lannister crimson, 3 chests of gold that once filled a dozen, her faithful servant Bernadette, who wept when they left the Red Keep, and Qyburn, the only member of her small council brave enough to follow his queen into exile. The winds favor us, your grace, Captain Orain Waters says. The Bastard of Driftmark commands the last Lannister ship to leave Blackwater Bay. We should reach Pentos within the fortnight. Cersei nods without turning from the rail. The salt spray stings her face, like tears she refuses to shed. A queen does not weep for kingdoms lost. She plans how to reclaim them. "Send ravens ahead," she tells Qyburn. "Inform the magisters that Queen Cersei Lannister seeks audience. Let them know gold follows close behind." Qyburn bows his head. "It shall be done, Your Grace, though perhaps we should consider what terms they might demand." "Terms!" Cersei's laugh is sharp as broken glass. "I am offering them the chance to back the rightful Queen of Westeros. They should be grateful for the opportunity." But even as she speaks, doubt gnaws at her confidence. The gold chests grow lighter with each day's expenses. Her retinue shrinks as men desert at every port, and somewhere behind them, ravens carry word of what happened at the Sept of Baelor. Within the week, the galley enters Pentos Harbor. The free city spreads across the hills like a jeweled crown, its domed palaces gleaming in the afternoon sun. Merchant ships from across the known world crowd the docks. Pentoshi traders haggle in a dozen languages, while slaves carry goods to waiting warehouses. Cersei descends the gangplank with all the dignity she can muster. Her remaining guards form up around her, their hands resting on sword hilts. The docks of Pentos teem with cutthroats and sellswords. An exiled queen makes a tempting target. "Your Grace," Qyburn murmurs. Magister Illyrio's men approach. A palanquin appears through the crowd, borne by 8 burly slaves. Its silk curtains ripple in the harbor breeze. The bearers set it down with practiced ease, and Magister Illyrio Maupertuis emerges like a silk-wrapped mountain. "Queen Cersei." Illyrio's voice drips honey and false welcome. Pentos opens its arms to the mother of lions. "Though I confess, word of your departure reached us before your ship." Cersei straightens her shoulders. "Word travels fast across the narrow sea. Indeed, ravens fly swifter than ships." Illyrio gestures toward his palanquin. "Come, my manse offers comfort and privacy. We have much to discuss." The journey through Pentos reveals both its wealth and its dangers. Merchant palaces rise beside sprawling slums. Armed guards patrol every corner, while beggars huddle in shadows. This is a city where gold talks louder than blood, and Cersei's purse grows lighter by the day. Illyrio's manse squats like a perfumed toad beside the harbor. Its gardens overflow with exotic flowers and singing birds. Slaves in silk livery serve wine from crystal goblets. Everything speaks of wealth beyond counting. "Your reputation precedes you," Illyrio says, as they settle in his solar. Tapestries from Maya cover the walls. The floor bears carpets from the summer isles. The Sept of Baelor burns in every tavern tale from here to Volantis. Let them talk. Cersei sips wine that tastes of home. Fear serves a ruler better than love. Perhaps, but fear without power behind it? That becomes mockery. Illyrio's fat fingers drum against his goblet. What brings the former Queen of Westeros to humble Pentos? I seek allies, sellswords, ships to carry my banners back across the narrow sea. Ah, Illyrio nods, as if this explains everything. And what do you offer in return for such considerable expenses? Cersei sets down her goblet with deliberate care. When I reclaim the Iron Throne, Pentos will enjoy favorable trading terms, exclusive contracts, a queen's gratitude. The Iron Throne. Illyrio tastes the words like fine wine. Tell me, Your Grace, who sits that throne now? The question cuts deeper than any blade. Cersei has no answer that does not wound her pride. The throne sits empty, but not for long. Empty thrones invite many claimants. Illyrio leans forward. I hear whispers from the east, a young queen with dragons. She claims that same throne by older right than yours. Daenerys Targaryen. The name burns in Cersei's throat like poison. She forces her voice to remain steady. Dragons or no dragons, I am the rightful queen. The people know this. The people know what their lords tell them, and from what I hear, their lords chose exile over execution for you. A merciful judgment, some might say. Some might. Cersei's eyes harden. What terms do you offer, Magister? Illyrio spreads his hands as if the gesture pains him. Pentos offers sanctuary, food, shelter, protection from your enemies, in exchange for compensation. How much? For a queen? A modest sum. Say, 50,000 gold dragons for the first year. The number hits like a physical blow. Cersei's remaining wealth might last 3 months at such prices. That seems excessive. Exile is expensive, Your Grace, particularly for someone with so many enemies. Illyrio's smile never wavers. But perhaps we might discuss alternatives. Meanwhile, in the harbour taverns, other conversations take place. Cersei's guards drink ale and listen to Sellsword gossip. The Golden Company camps outside the city walls. 20,000 men, they say. Veterans of a dozen wars. For the right price, they might sail anywhere. The Golden Company? Cersei repeats when Qyburn brings word. Can they be trusted? Their reputation speaks for itself, Your Grace. But their loyalty belongs to gold, not blood. Then we shall speak with them. Arrange a meeting. The Golden Company's camp sprawls across a hillside like a small city. Tents bear the skull and swords of their sigil. Horses graze in corralled fields, while men practice with sword and spear. These are professional soldiers, not farm boys with rusty blades. Captain General Harry Strickland receives them in his command tent. Maps cover every surface. Weapons hang from tent poles. This is a man who lives for war. Your Grace. Strickland's bow holds respect, but no submission. Word of your situation has reached our ears. I seek employment for your company, Cersei says without preamble. 20,000 swords to help me reclaim what was stolen. Strickland studies her with calculating eyes. The Golden Company fights for gold, not causes. Can you afford 20,000 men? Name your price. For a campaign across the narrow sea, against entrenched enemies with home advantage? Strickland strokes his beard. 2 million gold dragons, half paid in advance. The sum staggers her. Cersei fights to keep her face composed. That seems substantial. War is expensive, particularly war against dragons. Strickland's smile holds no warmth. Yes, we know about the Targaryen girl, her fleet, her armies, her pets. Cersei's hands clench into fists. Dragons can be killed. Armies can be defeated. Perhaps, but not by pauper queens with empty purses. Strickland leans back in his chair. Return when you have gold to match your ambitions, Your Grace. Until then, the Golden Company serves richer masters. The rejection stings worse than any slap. Cersei leaves the camp with her pride in tatters and her purse feeling lighter than ever. Around the cook fires, sellswords laugh at jokes she cannot hear, but suspects are about her. Back in Pentos, Illyrio waits with wine and sympathetic smiles. The Golden Company, I assume? They have expensive tastes. You knew they would refuse. I suspected. Your reputation reaches Essos faster than your gold. Illyrio refills her goblet. But perhaps other opportunities await. Smaller companies. Hungrier men. How much smaller? The Windblown have 3,000 men. The Company of the Cat can field 1,500. Not armies to conquer kingdoms, but perhaps enough to establish a foothold. Cersei stares into her wine, as if it might reveal answers. 3,000 swords cannot take King's Landing. They could barely take a minor lordship. But what other choice remains? There is another matter, Illyrio says gently. Word spreads through the free cities. They know what happened at the Sept. Some see opportunity in your misfortune. What kind of opportunity? Bounties, Rewards for information about your whereabouts. It seems your enemies in Westeros have long memories and longer reach. The words chill her blood. Even in exile, Cersei cannot escape the consequences of her choices. Every coin spent draws her closer to poverty. Every day brings new enemies to her door. That night, she stands on Illyrio's balcony and watches the harbor lights flicker like fallen stars. Somewhere beyond the horizon, Westeros waits. Her birthright sits empty while she begs for scraps from fat merchants and sellsword captains. But queens do not surrender. They adapt. They survive. They find new ways to claim what belongs to them. Tomorrow will bring fresh plans, new schemes, different allies perhaps, but allies nonetheless. The game continues, even in exile, and Cersei Lannister plays to win. The taverns of Pentos buzz with whispers of the exiled Queen of Westeros. Cersei hears the gossip wherever she goes, spoken in hushed tones between cups of ale. Some tales paint her as a monster, others as a tragic figure. All agree she has fallen far from grace. But tonight, in the Merchant's Rest, she overhears something different. A woman's voice, speaking with a Dornish accent, mentions Sunspear and exile in the same breath. Cersei turns in her chair and studies the speaker across the crowded room. The woman sits alone, her olive skin marked by sun and hardship. Dark hair frames a face that once knew beauty, but now bears the weight of defeat. She wears simple traveling clothes, but her posture speaks of noble birth. When she raises her cup, Cersei catches sight of a ring bearing the spear and son of House Martell. Ellaria Sand, Cersei murmurs to herself, the bastard paramour of the late Prince Oberyn, the woman who murdered Prince Doran and his son in a failed bid to control Dorne. Cersei remembers the reports that reached King's Landing, how Ellaria's rebellion crumbled when the great houses united against Cersei herself, how Dornish lords chose stability over vengeance, how the sand snakes fell one by one to loyal spears. Cersei rises and approaches the table. Ellaria looks up with eyes that have seen too much death. Lady Sand, Cersei inclines her head slightly. Or do you prefer another title now? Ellaria's laugh holds no humor. I prefer alive, Your Grace. It seems a rare privilege for women like us these days. Indeed. Cersei gestures to an empty chair. May I? The famous Queen Cersei, seeking audience with a bastard from Dorne. Ellaria nods toward the chair. How the mighty have fallen. Cersei sits, ignoring the barb. Around them, the tavern continues its nightly revelry. But their corner grows quiet, as if danger radiates from their meeting. We have common enemies, Cersei says without preamble. Do we? Last I heard, you murdered hundreds in King's Landing, including children. Ellaria's voice carries the weight of old grief. That sounds like something my enemies would do. Your enemies are the lords who cast you out. Mine are the same lords who chose exile over execution. Cersei leans forward. Neither of us can return home while they hold power. Ellaria studies her with calculating eyes. What do you propose? An alliance. Your knowledge of Dornish loyalists. My understanding of Westerosi politics. Together we might find paths back to power. My loyalists are dead or scattered. The Sand Snakes fell defending Sunspear. Prince Doran's supporters hunt me like a common criminal. Ellaria's fingers tighten around her cup. I have nothing to offer but hatred. Hatred can be useful, properly directed. For a long moment, they sit in silence. Two women who reached for power and watched it slip through their fingers. Two queens in exile, though only one ever wore a crown. There are others, Ellaria says finally. Exiles like us. Nobles who backed the wrong horse or chose the wrong side. They gather in taverns and brothels, dreaming of home. Cersei's pulse quickens. How many others? Enough to matter, if they could be united. Ellaria signals for more wine. There's a Targaryen loyalist who fled after Robert's rebellion. Sir Willem Darry's nephew, I think. He holds court in a rented room above a brothel. The name stirs memories. Cersei recalls the purges after Robert took the throne. How Targaryen supporters fled across the narrow sea rather than face the headsman's axe. Most died in poverty and obscurity, but some survived, nursing old grudges and older claims. Where? Tyrosh. He calls himself the True Hand, serving a king who died 17 years ago. Illaria's smile turns predatory. Mad, perhaps, but madness and desperation make strange allies. Within the week, Cersei and her remaining household sail for Tyrosh. The merchant ship bears no banners, carries no royal passengers, just traders seeking profit in the free cities. But in her cabin, Cersei plans like the queen she still believes herself to be. Qyburn spreads maps across the narrow table. Tyrosh controls the sea lanes between Pentos and the Summer Isles. Whoever rules there commands considerable wealth. Wealth we need. Cersei traces trade routes with her finger. How many exiles gather in Tyrosh? Reports vary, Your Grace. Perhaps 24 of noble birth. Maybe 100 followers and hangers-on. Qyburn rolls up the maps. Not an army, but a beginning. The ship docks in Tyrosh harbour on a grey morning heavy with salt spray. The city rises in tiers of red stone and blue-tiled roofs. Dye merchants hawk their wares in rainbow stalls, while slaves carry goods to waiting ships. This is a city built on trade and blood, where fortunes rise and fall like the tide. Ellaria leads them through winding streets to a district where sailors spend their shore leave. The buildings lean against each other like drunken men, their windows dark with grime and secrecy. Somewhere in this maze, displaced nobles play at kingdoms they have lost. The brothel sits squeezed between a tavern and a rope-maker's shop. Its faded sign shows a mermaid with Valyrian features. Ellaria pushes through the door without ceremony, and Cersei follows into air thick with wine and desperation. "Upstairs," Ellaria says. "The private rooms." They climb creaking steps to a corridor lined with doors. From behind them come sounds of laughter and other business. But at the corridor's end, a different kind of meeting takes place. The room holds perhaps 20 people, all dressed in clothes that once knew finery. They sit in chairs arranged like a small council, with one man occupying what might generously be called a throne. It's actually a merchant's chair draped with faded red cloth. "Sir Daemon Sand," Ellaria announces. "May I present Queen Cersei Lannister." The man in the makeshift throne rises slowly. He bears the silver hair of old Valyria, though age has dimmed its luster. His clothes speak of former wealth, carefully maintained, but showing wear. This is a man who remembers better days. "Your Grace." Daemon's bow holds genuine respect. "We heard tales of your departure from Westeros. Welcome to our humble court." Cersei surveys the assembled exiles. She recognizes some faces from her time in King's Landing. A Valyrian cousin who fled after backing the wrong claimant. A Celtigar lordling who chose exile over bending the knee. Men and women who lost everything when power shifted. "You style yourself Hand?" Cersei asks. "Hand to King Viserys, third of his name." Daemon gestures to an empty chair beside his throne, though his grace remains, indisposed across the narrow sea. The polite fiction hangs in the air like incense. Everyone knows Viserys Targaryen died years ago in Essos, but these exiles need their dreams, their pretenses of legitimacy. "We seek common cause," Cersei says. "United, we might achieve what none can accomplish alone." "And what might that be?" asks a woman Cersei recognizes as a minor Reach noble. Lady Fossaway, perhaps, or Mullendore. "Return, restoration, revenge on those who cast us out." Murmurs ripple through the room, some eager, some skeptical. These are people who have learned to manage expectations, to survive on scraps and false hope. "The Dragon Queen sails west," Daemon says carefully. Her claim supersedes all others, including yours, Your Grace. Daenerys Targaryen was never crowned, never ruled. She knows nothing of Westeros beyond what advisors tell her. Cersei's voice hardens. I ruled for years. I know every lord, every alliance, every weakness. Yet you sit here with us, not on the Iron Throne. The words sting, but Cersei maintains her composure. Temporary setback. Queens do not abandon their kingdoms because of one defeat. An old man in Targaryen colours speaks up. What do you offer besides titles and promises? We've heard such words before. Organization, purpose, a real plan instead of idle dreams. Cersei stands, commanding the room's attention. Alone, we are refugees, begging for scraps. Together, we become a shadow government, an alternative to whatever regime rules in our absence. The exiled crown, Ellaria adds, a court without a kingdom. Yet, for the next hour, they debate and argue and plan. Cersei listens to their grievances, their hopes, their desperate schemes. These are broken people clinging to broken dreams. But broken things can sometimes be reforged into new shapes. We need funds, says the Celtigar lordling. Ships, soldiers. We need allies among the free cities, adds Lady Fossaway. Magisters who remember old debts to Westeros. We need information, Cersei says. Knowledge of what happens in our homeland. Who rises, who falls, who might be persuaded to change sides. Daemon nods slowly. All of this requires time and survival. Then we survive. Cersei looks around the room, meeting each exile's eyes. We plan, we prepare. We remember that kingdoms are won by those patient enough to outlast their enemies. That night, in a rented room above the brothel, Cersei meets privately with the key figures. Daemon Sand, clinging to Targaryen legitimacy. Ellaria Sand, burning with Dornish hatred. The Celtigar boy, eager to prove his worth. Lady Fossaway, whose reach connections might prove valuable. Can this work? Ellaria asks bluntly. It has to. Cersei pours wine from a bottle that costs more than most of the exiles see in a month. The alternative is begging for scraps until we die forgotten in foreign cities. Some might prefer that to another war. Then they were never worthy of power in the first place. Cersei raises her cup. To the exiled crown. May it find its way home. The others echo the toast, their voices mixing hope and desperation in equal measure. Outside, Tyrosh sleeps under foreign stars, but in this small room, a kingdom begins to take shape from shadows and spite. Tomorrow will bring new challenges. Letters to write, allies to court, funds to find. The Game of Thrones continues even in exile, perhaps especially in exile. But tonight, for the first time since fleeing Westeros, Cersei Lannister feels like a queen again. The raven arrives at dawn, its black wings cutting through the salt air above Tyrosh Harbour. The bird bears no royal seal, no official markings, but the message it carries will shake the foundations of the exiled crown before the sun reaches its peak. Cersei breaks the seal with trembling fingers. The parchment bears a merchant's mark, but the words within speak of dragons and conquest. Her face grows pale as she reads, then flushed with rage. Your Grace? Qyburn approaches carefully. What news from the west? Not the west. Cersei crushes the letter in her fist. The east. Daenerys Targaryen has taken Slaver's Bay, all of it. Meereen, Yunkai, Astapor. Her fleet numbers 1,000 ships. The words hit the room like a thunderbolt. Around the makeshift throne room above the brothel, the assembled exiles exchange glances heavy with meaning. Some show fear, others excitement. All understand that the game has changed forever. Daemon Sand rises from his merchant's chair. 1,000 ships? Surely that's an exaggeration. Read it yourself. Cersei throws the crumpled letter at his feet. Dothraki riders beyond counting, unsullied spears like a forest of steel, and 3 dragons to burn any who stand against her. Ilaria Sand steps forward, her Dornish features thoughtful. This changes everything. If the Dragon Queen truly commands such forces, then she can retake Westeros without our help. The voice belongs to Sir Daemon, but the bitterness could come from any of them. What need has she for broken exiles? Cersei paces the narrow room like a caged lioness. She has armies, yes, but what does she know of ruling, of the great houses and their ancient feuds? She was a child when she fled Westeros. A child with dragons, Lady Fossaway observes. Dragons tend to settle feuds quickly. Dragons can be killed. Cersei whirls to face them. Aegon the Conqueror had 3 dragons too, yet his line fell in the end. After 300 years of rule, Ilaria points out. I wouldn't call that failure. The argument continues for hours. Some exiles see opportunity in Daenerys' rise. A Targaryen restoration might offer pardons, positions, a chance to return home. Others see only competition, another claimant to the throne they dream of influencing. But it's the next raven that truly devastates Cersei. This message comes 3 days later, bearing the seal of a Volantis trading house. But the contents speak of matters far from commerce. Cersei reads it once, then again, her face growing white as parchment. No. The word escapes her lips like a prayer denied. No, this cannot be true. Qyburn takes the letter with gentle hands. His own face darkens as he scans the lines. Your Grace, I am sorry, but the reports seem consistent. What reports? Daemon demands. Qyburn clears his throat. The Dragon Queen has named a new hand. Lord Tyrion Lannister serves at her right hand. The silence that follows could crack stone. Every eye in the room turns to Cersei, watching for her reaction. Her brother. The dwarf she hated. The kinslayer who murdered their father. Now he sits in power beside the very queen who threatens to destroy everything Cersei dreams of rebuilding. Tyrion. The name tastes like poison on her tongue. My own brother serves the Pretender. Perhaps he was forced, Lady Fossaway suggests weakly. Tyrion Lannister has never been forced to do anything he didn't wish. Cersei's laugh holds no humor. He dreams of power, and she offers it freely. What else would the little monster to choose? Ilaria Sand watches her with calculating eyes. This complicates matters. Your brother knows your weaknesses, your methods. If he advises the Dragon Queen, then she knows everything. Cersei sinks into a chair, suddenly looking older than her years. Every secret, every alliance, every plan I might make. Tyrion sees them all before I act. The implications ripple through the room like stones cast in still water. Their careful plotting, their network of exiles, their dreams of return. All of it known to their greatest enemy. We could send an envoy, Sir Daemon suggests. Seek audience with the Dragon Queen. Perhaps accommodation is possible. Accommodation? Cersei's voice rises. I am the rightful queen of Westeros. I do not accommodate usurpers and kinslayers. Then what do you propose? Ilaria's question cuts to the heart of the matter. Cersei stands, her decision crystallizing like ice in winter. We seek other allies. The Dragon Queen commands the east, but gold still rules the west. And I know where the greatest gold in the world lies. Casterly Rock? Lady Fossaway asks. Bravos, the Iron Bank. Cersei's smile holds predatory satisfaction. They lent millions to the crown, money that Daenerys Targaryen has no obligation to repay. Money that went up in smoke with the Sept of Baelor. Understanding dawns on several faces. The Iron Bank of Bravos never forgets a debt, never forgives default. And right now, the crown of Westeros owes them more gold than some kingdoms see in generations. Within the week, Cersei sails for Bravos aboard a Tiroshi trading vessel. The ship cuts through grey waters under grey skies, carrying the deposed queen toward her greatest gamble yet. If the Iron Bank can be convinced, if their gold can buy what dragons cannot, then perhaps the game is far from over. Braavos rises from the lagoon like a fevered dream. Canals wind between impossible towers, while bridges arch overhead like stone rainbows. The arsenal squats on its island like a great beast, birthing ships to carry Braavosi gold across the known world. The Sea Lord's palace dominates the city's heart, its purple domed towers reaching toward heaven itself. Guards in seafoam green escort Cersei through corridors lined with marble columns and silk tapestries. This is where the real power of the world gathers, measured not in swords but in ledgers. The Sea Lord receives her in a chamber overlooking the harbour. Ships from every nation dock below while others sail toward distant horizons. Ferrego Antarion, the current Sea Lord, studies her with eyes that have seen every form of human desperation. Your Grace. His bow holds respect, but no warmth. Braavos welcomes all who come in peace, though I confess surprise at your visit. My Lord Sea Lord, Cersei matches his formality. I come seeking partnership between old allies. Old allies? Ferrego raises an eyebrow. The Iron Throne owes the Iron Bank considerable sums, debts that remain unaddressed. The blunt words hit like physical blows, but Cersei expected this. Debts I intend to honor, once my rightful throne is restored. Restored? Ferrego tastes the word like wine of uncertain vintage. Reports suggest another claimant approaches Westeros, one with dragons and armies. Daenerys Targaryen has armies, yes, but she has no understanding of debt, of obligation, of the bonds that hold kingdoms together. Cersei steps closer to the great window. What happens to your loans when dragons burn the counting houses? An interesting question. Ferrego joins her at the window. But academic, the Dragon Queen can compel payment through force. You offer only promises. I offer something she cannot. Legitimacy. Cersei's voice grows urgent. The great houses of Westeros will never truly accept Targaryen rule. They remember the Mad King, the wildfire, the screams. They need someone they trust to lead them. Someone like the Queen who destroyed the Sept of Baelor? The words sting because they carry truth. Cersei fights to keep her voice steady. That was necessary. To preserve the realm from religious fanaticism. Necessary. Ferrego nods slowly. The Iron Bank understands necessity. We also understand numbers. He turns from the window to face her directly. Your reign lasted months. Hers promises to last decades. Promise being the operative word, Cersei counters. Dragons die, armies scatter, gold endures. Indeed it does. Ferrego signals to a servant, who brings a leather portfolio thick with documents. The Crown's debt to the Iron Bank currently stands at 47 million gold dragons, with interest. The number staggers her, but Cersei keeps her expression neutral. A significant sum. One that grows daily. The Dragon Queen shows no inclination to honor debts incurred by previous rulers. She speaks of breaking chains, not forging new ones through obligation. Here, finally, is the opening Cersei has sought. Then you understand my position. Your bank needs a ruler who respects the old agreements. Perhaps. Ferrego closes the portfolio. What do you propose? A loan, sufficient to hire sellsword companies, buy allies, secure ships. Cersei's pulse quickens as the moment approaches. In exchange, I pledge the full faith and credit of the crown once restored. The full faith of a crown that currently rests on another's head. Ferrego's smile holds no warmth. Your Grace, the Iron Bank deals in certainties, not hopes. Dragons are not certain. They can be killed. But they exist. Your armies, your allies, your prospects of victory, these remain theoretical. Ferrego moves toward his desk, clearly ending the interview. The Iron Bank cannot extend credit to theoretical queens. The rejection hits harder than any physical blow. Cersei had counted on Braavosi gold, on their hatred of dragons and chaos, but even the Iron Bank sees her as a bad investment. My lord, she tries once more, consider the alternative. If Daenerys Targaryen repudiates all crown debts, then we will find ways to collect from a living, ruling queen, rather than a dead pretender. Ferrego's words carry the finality of judgment. I am sorry, Your Grace. Braavos wishes you well, but cannot assist your endeavors. The audience ends with formal courtesies that taste like ash in her mouth. Cersei leaves the palace with empty hands and emptier hopes. Behind her, the Sea Lord returns to his ledgers, already calculating the Dragon Queen's ability to pay. That night, in a modest inn overlooking the canal, Cersei stares at her reflection in wine dark as blood. The greatest bank in the world has rejected her. Dragons fly toward Westeros while she sits powerless in a foreign city. But queens do not surrender. They adapt. Somewhere in the free cities, other opportunities wait. Other allies who might see profit in backing the rightful queen. The game continues, even if the odds grow longer with each passing day. Tomorrow will bring new plans, new schemes. The Dragon Queen may have gold and armies, and fire made flesh, but she doesn't yet wear the crown, and until she does, anything remains possible. Cersei walks the canals of Braavos in the hours before dawn, her face hidden beneath a merchant's hood. The rejection from the Iron Bank burns like acid in her chest, but defeat only sharpens her resolve. If gold cannot buy her enemies' deaths, perhaps other currencies will serve. The House of Black and White rises from the mist like a fevered dream made stone. Black stone and white stone intertwined, forming patterns that hurt the eyes to follow. No guards stand at its doors. No signs mark its purpose. Yet everyone in Braavos knows what waits within those walls. Cersei pauses at the threshold, her hand trembling on the iron ring. Inside, death wears 1,000 faces and speaks in whispers. The faceless men serve the many-faced god with techniques honed over centuries. If anyone can reach her enemies, it is them. The great doors swing open at her touch, revealing a hall vast as a cathedral. Pillars support a ceiling, lost in shadow, while candles flicker like captured stars. At the chamber's heart stands a pool of black water, perfectly still, despite the currents that should disturb it. You seek the gift. The voice comes from everywhere and nowhere, echoing off stone walls like distant thunder. Cersei turns, searching for the speaker. A man emerges from the shadows between pillars. His face is neither young nor old, neither handsome nor plain. It shifts constantly, as if carved from living smoke. I seek service, Cersei says, fighting to keep her voice steady. All who come here seek service. Few understand the price. The man circles her slowly, his footsteps silent on polished stone. You wear many faces, but not the one you were born with. I am Queen Cersei Lannister, rightful ruler of... You are no one. The interruption cuts like a blade. Here, all pretense falls away. Crowns and titles are masks we help you remove. Cersei's hand moves instinctively toward her hidden dagger. But steel means nothing in this place. The faceless men have ways of killing that make swords look like children's toys. I have gold, she tries again. Gold is useful, but the many-faced god cares little for metal. The man stops before her, his face settling into features she almost recognizes. What gift do you seek to give? The euphemism chills her blood. Gift means death, always death. Multiple gifts, for enemies who threaten the realm. Name them. Cersei takes a breath that tastes of incense and something darker. Daenerys Targaryen, the pretender who sails from the east. A difficult gift. She surrounds herself with guards, with dragons. Such gifts cost much. Tyrion Lannister, my brother who serves the pretender. Kinslaying carries special prices. The gods notice when family blood spills. Olenna Tyrell, the woman who orchestrated my exile. An old woman should die peacefully, Unnatural deaths draw attention. The list continues. Jon Snow, the bastard who claims the North. Sansa Stark, who helped destroy her family. Every name that burns in her memory like brands against her soul. The kindly man listens without comment, his face shifting through expressions she cannot read. When she finishes, silence stretches between them like a held breath. 7 gifts, he says finally, each of significant difficulty, each carrying substantial risk. Name your price. For 7 such gifts, the man's face becomes her father's, then her mother's, then something that might once have been human. The price is your face. The words hit her like physical blows. My face. Your true face, the one beneath all masks. We would add it to our collection, and you would serve the many-faced god as we do. His voice grows gentle, almost kind. You would become no one, and no one would become you. Cersei staggers backward, horror crawling up her throat. You want me to become one of you? Not become. Cease. The woman who calls herself Queen Cersei would die. Someone else would wear her face, speak with her voice, return to Westeros in her place. That's madness. That is the price. Death for death. 7 faces from you, 1 face from us. The man spreads his hands as if the bargain is perfectly reasonable. Consider it carefully. Such opportunities rarely present themselves twice. Cersei's mind reels with the implications. Her enemies would die, yes, but she would die too, in every way that mattered. Some stranger would wear her skin, claim her name, perhaps even rule in her place. There must be another way, more gold, other services. The price is set. The man's face becomes Joffrey's, then Myrcella's, then Tommen's. Each beloved feature twists the knife deeper. Your children understood sacrifice. Do you? Rage blazes through terror. Do not speak of my children. They gave their lives for power. Now we ask the same of you. The face shifts again, becoming her own mirror image. What is 1 life against 7 deaths? My life. My face. My. Cersei stumbles toward the doors, her composure cracking like ice in spring. I need time to consider. Time changes nothing. The price remains. But the man makes no move to stop her flight. Return when you are ready to pay. Cersei flees through the dark streets of Braavos like a woman pursued by demons. Behind her, the House of Black and White squats in its eternal patience, waiting for souls desperate enough to pay any price. She reaches her inn, as false dawn paints the sky grey as old bone. In her rented room, she collapses into a chair and stares at her reflection in the window glass. The face looking back is still her own. Still recognizable, still hers to command. But for how long? The faceless men's offer echoes in her mind like a curse. 7 enemies dead, but Cersei Lannister dead with them. Someone else wearing her skin, claiming her throne, living the life she fought so hard to preserve. A soft knock interrupts her brooding. Enter, she calls. Qyburn slips through the door like a shadow. Your Grace, forgive the intrusion, but you should know, our contacts in the city bring disturbing news. More disturbing than what I've already heard tonight? A girl, northern accent, asking questions about Westerosi nobles in the city. Qyburn's voice drops to a whisper. She mentioned the name Stark. Cersei's blood turns to ice water. Stark? Which Stark? Unknown, but she was seen near the House of Black and White, entering with others who serve the many-faced god. The implications crash over her like a wave. A Stark girl in Braavos, near the Temple of Assassins, training with the faceless men. It could only mean one thing. Arya Stark. The name tastes like poison. The little wolf who vanished from King's Landing. It would seem she did not vanish so much as relocate. Qyburn wrings his hands nervously. If she has learned their arts, if she can change her face. Cersei rises from her chair, pacing the small room like a caged lioness. Arya Stark, trained as a faceless man, the girl who watched her father's execution, who disappeared the night Joffrey died. Now she possesses skills that make her deadlier than any army. How long has she been here? Unknown, but the reports suggest considerable time, long enough to learn things, long enough to plan, to study, to choose targets and methods. Cersei's mind races through possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. A face-changing assassin with Stark blood and Stark grievances. "We leave Braavos," Cersei says suddenly. "Tonight. Your Grace?" "Gather our things. Book passage on the first ship sailing east. I don't care where it goes." Cersei pulls her cloak tighter around her shoulders. This city has become dangerous for people like us. And our plans, the alliances you've been building, can be rebuilt elsewhere, preferably somewhere without trained killers who wear the faces of their victims. Cersei moves to the window, watching the harbor wake with the dawn. The game has changed, Qyburn. We must change with it. They depart Braavos on a Myrish galley, bound for Volantis. Cersei stands at the stern, watching the city shrink into the distance. Somewhere behind them, the House of Black and White waits for customers desperate enough to pay its prices. Somewhere, Arya Stark practices arts that blur the line between life and death. But Cersei Lannister still wears her own face, still commands her own voice, still dreams of crowns and thrones and the sweet taste of revenge. The faceless men offered her victory at the cost of her very self. She chose to remain herself, powerless, but alive. Whether that choice proves wise or foolish remains to be seen. The ship cuts through blue waters toward an uncertain future. Behind them, Braavos fades into memory. Ahead, new cities wait with new opportunities and new dangers. The game continues. The players adapt. And somewhere in the distance, dragons spread their wings and prepare to change the world forever. But today, Cersei Lannister sails free under her own name, wearing her own face. For a deposed queen in exile, perhaps that is victory enough. The Myrish galley enters Volantis harbor as the sun reaches its zenith. The greatest of the free cities spreads before them like a fever dream of black stone and red brick. The long bridge spans the Rhoyne like a giant's causeway, while the black walls rise higher than any castle in Westeros. Cersei stands at the ship's rail, studying this ancient city that remembers when dragons ruled the world. Volantis breathes power from every stone. Here, the blood of old Valyria flows pure in the veins of the tiger cloaks. Here, the Red Temple burns eternal flames to R'hllor, Lord of Light. Your Grace, Qyburn approaches carefully. Shall we seek lodgings in the merchant quarter? No. Cersei keeps her eyes fixed on the crimson tower that dominates the city's heart. We go to the Red Temple first. If gold cannot buy me allies, perhaps faith can serve. The streets of Volantis teem with slaves and masters, merchants and sellswords. Tigers in black and gold patrol the avenues, while elephants lumber past bearing goods from distant Korth. This is a city that never knew defeat, never bent the knee to dragons or kings. The Red Temple rises like a mountain of carved flame. Red marble steps climb toward doors of beaten copper. Braziers burn along the walls, their fires never dimming. Slaves prostrate themselves before images of R'hllor, while red priests chant in High Valyrian. At the temple's heart, Kinvara waits. The high priestess of the Red Temple receives supplicants in a chamber lit by 100 flames. She sits upon a throne of red stone, her dark skin gleaming like polished bronze. Rubies circle her throat like drops of blood while her eyes burn with inner fire. Queen Cersei Lannister. Kinvara's voice carries the crackle of logs in a hearth. The Mother of Lions comes to the Lord of Light. How interesting. Cersei approaches the throne with measured steps. Guards in red robes line the walls, their hands resting on curved blades. This is a place of power older than the 7 kingdoms, stranger than anything in Westeros, Your Holiness. Cersei inclines her head respectfully. I seek audience with the voice of R'hllor. All who breathe seek audience with the light. Few understand what they truly ask. Kinvara studies her with eyes like burning coals. You reek of ash and wildfire, of choices that echo in the flames. The words chill Cersei's blood. I did what was necessary to preserve the realm. Necessary. Kinvara tastes the word like wine. Tell me, Queen of Ashes, what necessity brought you to my temple? I seek alliance against false claimants, against those who would steal thrones through force rather than right. Ah. Kinvara leans forward in her throne. You speak of the Dragon Queen, the breaker of chains who sails toward Westeros. She is a pretender, a foreign invader with no understanding of the realm she claims. And you are the rightful heir. Kinvara's laugh sounds like flames consuming parchment. The woman who murdered hundreds in the name of faith. Cersei's hands clench into fists. I destroyed fanatics who threatened the crown. I preserved the ancient order. You preserved nothing. Kinvara rises from her throne, moving with fluid grace. You burned the Sept, yes, but you also burned yourself. The flames showed me your future. Queen of Ashes. What future? Kinvara circles her like a predator studying prey. Would you know what R'hllor has shown me? The price of such knowledge is truth. Complete truth. Cersei nods, despite the fear crawling up her spine. Very well. Kinvara stops before her, close enough to feel the heat radiating from her skin. I have seen you burn twice. Once in glory, ruling through fire and blood. Once in shame, consumed by the very flames you thought to command. The prophecy hits like a physical blow. What does that mean? The Queen of Ashes shall burn twice. Once in glory, once in shame. Kinvara's eyes glow like forge coals. You have already burned once. The Sept of Baelor was your moment of terrible glory. And the second burning? That future remains, flexible. The flames show possibilities, not certainties. Kinvara returns to her throne. But I have seen you consumed by dragonfire. I have seen you rise from those flames as something new, something terrible. Cersei's mind reels with implications. Death by dragonfire, resurrection, transformation into something inhuman. You speak in riddles. The Lord of Light speaks truth. We merely interpret his words as best we can. Kinvara settles into her throne like a cat claiming its domain. What matters is the choice before you now. What choice? Serve the light, and it will serve you. Embrace R'hllor as your lord, and he will grant you power beyond dragons. Kinvara's smile holds promises and threats in equal measure. Reject him, and face whatever future awaits alone. Cersei stares into the flames dancing around the chamber. The 7 have never answered her prayers. The faith militant burned in the Sept they claimed to serve. Perhaps older gods, fiercer gods, might prove more reliable. What would such service require? Conversion, complete and absolute. You would renounce the 7 and embrace the one true faith. Kinvara spreads her hands as if the gesture encompasses worlds. In exchange, R'hllor would grant you powers to match any dragon. What powers? The ability to see truth in flames, to command fire as others command swords, to return from death itself if the Lord of Light wills it. Kinvara's voice grows hypnotic. You could burn your enemies without wildfire, kill your betrayers without poison. The offer tempts like nothing Cersei has ever heard. Power without armies, victory without gold, revenge served by divine will rather than mortal weakness. And if I refuse? Then you remain what you are, an exiled queen with empty purses and dwindling allies. Kinvara shrugs, as if Cersei's fate matters little. The choice is yours, but choose quickly. The Dragon Queen approaches Westeros with each passing day. Cersei closes her eyes, feeling the weight of decision pressing down like stones. The faith of the Seven never served her well. Their silence cost her everything when she needed divine intervention most. Perhaps it is time to seek patron gods who answer prayers with action. But conversion means abandoning everything she was raised to believe. The Sept where she wed Robert. The prayers she whispered over her children's cradles. The faith of her fathers stretching back centuries. I need time to consider. Time is a luxury queens in exile cannot afford. But Kinvara makes no move to press her decision. Return tomorrow at sunset. The flames will be ready to receive your answer. Cersei leaves the Red Temple with her mind churning like storm-tossed seas. Behind her, eternal flames burn in honor of R'hllor. Ahead, the setting sun paints Volantis in shades of blood and gold. That night, in a rented chamber overlooking the Rhoyne, she stares into a bowl of wine, dark as dragon's blood. The reflection looking back shows a woman who has lost everything: crown, children, kingdom, faith. Qyburn enters without knocking, his face grave with fresh intelligence. Your Grace, word from our contacts in the city. The Dragon Queen's fleet has been sighted off Dragonstone. The news hits like cold water. Daenerys Targaryen has returned to Westeros. Dragons circle the skies above the ancient Targaryen stronghold. The game rushes toward its conclusion, while Cersei sits powerless in a foreign temple. How long before she moves on King's Landing? Unknown. But our sources suggest she seeks alliances first, meetings with potential supporters. Qyburn wrings his hands nervously. Time grows short for any countermove. Cersei turns back to the window, watching braziers flicker along the temple walls. Somewhere in those flames, R'hllor waits for her answer. Convert and gain magical power to face dragons. Refuse and face whatever future awaits with mortal strength alone. The faith of the Seven brought her only silence when she needed miracles. Perhaps it is time to seek gods who speak in fire rather than whispers. Tomorrow's sunset will bring her answer. Tonight, she prays to whatever powers might be listening for the wisdom to choose correctly. The game approaches its climax. Dragons soar toward the Iron Throne, while prophecy speaks of queens burning twice. Whether Cersei Lannister rises from those ashes as conqueror or consumed remains to be seen. But in the morning, she will give her answer to the High Priestess of R'hllor, and with that choice, seal her fate for all the battles yet to come. The dragons appear first, 3 dark shapes cutting across the Volantis sky like shadows of death itself. Their roars echo off the black walls while slaves prostrate themselves in the streets. The Mother of Dragons has come to the greatest of the free cities. Cersei watches from her chamber window as the armada fills the harbor. 1,000 ships bearing black sails and red dragons. Dothraki screamers crowd the decks, while unsullied stand in perfect formation. This is the army that conquered Slaver's Bay, now sailing toward Westeros. Your Grace. Qyburn enters without ceremony, his face pale as parchment. A delegation approaches under a flag of truce. They request immediate audience. Cersei's blood turns to ice water. Who leads them? Your brother, Your Grace. Lord Tyrion comes with 12 unsullied guards. The words hit like physical blows. Tyrion, here in Volantis, the brother who murdered their father, now serves the Dragon Queen as her most trusted advisor. He comes bearing proposals that could mean life or death. Bring him to the temple courtyard, Cersei says, after a long moment. If we must speak, let it be on neutral ground. The Red Temple's outer courtyard buzzes with tension as the 2 parties meet. Tyrion approaches with measured steps, flanked by Unsullied, whose spears gleam in the afternoon sun. He wears fine clothes now, the hand's pin glittering on his chest like a golden target. Cersei stands beside the sacred flames, Qyburn and her remaining guards arrayed behind her, Sir Robert Strong looms like a mountain of steel and silence, his great sword ready despite the truce. Sister, Tyrion's bow holds mockery wrapped in courtesy. You look, well, exile agrees with you. Tyrion! Cersei keeps her voice level despite the rage burning in her chest. Come to gloat over my misfortune? Come to offer you a choice. Tyrion signals to his guards, who step back but remain alert. Her Grace, Queen Daenerys, extends an offer of mercy. Mercy? Cersei's laugh sounds like breaking glass. The Pretender offers me mercy. The Dragon Queen offers you life. Tyrion moves closer, his mismatched eyes serious for once. More than you deserved after the Sept of Baelor. I preserved the realm from fanatics. You murdered hundreds of innocents. Tyrion's voice hardens. But that's not why I'm here. Her Grace believes in justice, not revenge. Cersei studies her brother's face, searching for traces of the boy who once made her laugh. She finds only a stranger wearing familiar features. What does the Dragon Queen propose? 2 choices. Tyrion holds up his fingers. First, permanent exile with guaranteed safety. A pension from the crown, a comfortable life in Essos, and our word, you'll never be harmed. And the second? Trial by combat, here in Volantis, before witnesses from both sides. Tyrion's expression grows somber. Winner takes all. Victory means vindication and possible restoration. Defeat means death. The offer stuns her into silence. Daenerys Targaryen, conqueror of cities and breaker of chains, offers her mercy when she could simply take revenge. It speaks to either profound confidence or dangerous naivety. Why? Cersei asks. Why offer me anything? Because Her Grace believes every accused deserves the chance to prove their innocence. Tyrion shrugs. Also because she wants to avoid unnecessary bloodshed in Westeros. Your death in combat might discourage other potential rebels. The political calculation rings true. A public defeat of Cersei Lannister would demonstrate Daenerys' strength while showing mercy to enemies who surrender. Win the throne through justice rather than mere conquest. If I choose trial by combat, who would champion the Dragon Queen? Grey Worm, commander of the Unsullied, a warrior trained from birth for battle. Tyrion glances towards Sir Robert Strong. I assume you would choose your silent guardian. Cersei nods. Robert Strong against Grey Worm. The mountain reborn against the finest Unsullied ever trained. It would be a battle for the ages. When would this trial take place? Tomorrow at dawn, in the Temple of the Lord of Light. Kinvara has agreed to oversee the combat. Tyrion's eyes narrow slightly. I'm told you've been seeking the Red Priestess's counsel. I seek wisdom, wherever it might be found. Wisdom would be accepting exile. Tyrion steps closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. You have no army, no allies, no realistic chance of reclaiming Westeros. Take the pension and live quietly. Live quietly? Cersei's voice rises despite herself. Hide in some Essos villa while a foreign girl sits my throne? Your throne? Tyrion's laugh holds no humor. Cersei, you were never meant to rule. You held power for months before the realm cast you out. The realm will cast her out too, when they see what dragons really cost. Perhaps, but that's their choice to make, not yours. Tyrion turns to leave, then pauses. Think carefully. Sister, pride is a luxury you can no longer afford. After the delegation departs, Cersei paces the courtyard like a caged lioness. Exile with safety or trial by combat with all the risks that entails. Live as a forgotten exile or die as a defeated queen. Qyburn approaches cautiously. Your Grace, perhaps we should consider the offer of exile. With guaranteed safety, you could rebuild. Rebuild what? Cersei whirls on him. My reputation as a broken queen who accepted scraps from usurpers? You would live. That alone is more than many expected. Life without purpose is not life at all. Cersei stares toward the harbor where dragons circle overhead. No. If I must fall, let it be as a queen, not a beggar. Sir Robert Strong is formidable, but Grey Worm commands the finest warriors in the world. Robert Strong is more than formidable. He's death incarnate. Cersei's smile holds grim satisfaction. Let the Dragon Queen's champion face the mountain and see who proves stronger. That evening, ravens carry word throughout Volantis that trial by combat will determine the fate of the exiled Queen of Westeros. Betting houses open their books while magisters offer odds. The greatest free city has not seen such spectacle in generations. Cersei spends the night in prayer before the sacred flames of R'hllor. Whether she truly converts or simply hedges her bets, only she knows. But when dawn breaks over Volantis, she will face her fate with steel and fire. In the Dragon Queen's pavilion, Daenerys receives reports from her advisors. Tyrion argues for showing mercy to whatever outcome tomorrow brings. Missandei speaks of justice and redemption. Grey Worm simply sharpens his spear and prepares for battle. Do you think she'll choose exile? Daenerys asks her hand. No. Tyrion pours wine with steady hands. Cersei would rather die as a queen than live as anything less. Then tomorrow we settle this, one way or another. The city holds its breath as night deepens over Volantis. Dragons roost on the black walls, while eternal flames burn in the Red Temple. Two queens prepare for a confrontation that will echo through the ages. Dawn will bring trial by combat. Victory will bring vindication or death. And when the sun sets tomorrow, only one vision of Westeros's future will remain. But tonight, Cersei Lannister prays to the Lord of Light for the strength to face whatever morning brings. She chose her path long ago. Tomorrow, she'll walk it to its end. Dawn breaks grey and cold over Volantis as the city awakens to spectacle. The fighting pits haven't seen such crowds since the conquest of Slaver's Bay. Magisters arrive in silk palanquins, while Sellswards pack the cheap seats. Every eye in the greatest free city focuses on the sand-covered arena where queens will be made or broken. Cersei descends into the preparation chambers beneath the pit. Stone walls weep with moisture, while torches cast dancing shadows. This is where gladiators once prepared to die for the entertainment of masters. Today, it hosts a different kind of death match. Sir Robert Strong stands silent in the corner, his massive frame filling the narrow space. No words pass between them. The mountain speaks only through violence now, his voice stolen along with his life. But his sword remains sharp, his strength terrible as ever. Your Grace. Qyburn approaches with a leather satchel. I've prepared contingencies, should the trial not go as hoped. Cersei studies the vials within the satchel. Some contain poisons that kill quickly. Others hold stranger substances, darker experiments born from years of research into life and death. And if I fall, then we shall see what wonders the Lord of Light permits. Qyburn's smile holds secrets and promises. Death is not always final, as Sir Robert demonstrates. Above them, the crowds roar as Daenerys Targaryen enters the royal box. 3 dragons circle overhead, their shadows darkening the sand. The Dragon Queen wears simple fighting leathers rather than royal silks. She comes as a warrior, not just a ruler. Grey Worm emerges from the opposite tunnel, moving with the fluid grace of a man born to war. His spear gleams like silver lightning, while his shield bears no device. The Unsullied need no banners. Their skill speaks louder than heraldry. The horn sounds. The trial begins. Sir Robert Strong charges like an avalanche made flesh. His great sword cleaves the air where Grey Worm's head was a moment before. Sand explodes under his boots as he pivots for another strike. Grey Worm flows like water around the mountain's attacks. His spear darts out, testing armor, seeking gaps. The first thrust glances off plate steel. The second draws sparks from the mountain's helm. The crowd falls silent, watching giants clash in the morning sun. Every movement carries the weight of kingdoms. Every parry decides the fate of queens. Robert Strong's blade crashes down like a falling tree. Grey Worm rolls aside, sand coating his bronze skin. His spear sweeps low, seeking the mountain's legs. Steel meets steel in showers of sparks. "Kill him!" someone shouts from the crowds. Whether for Grey Worm or Robert Strong, Cersei cannot tell. The voices blur together like wind through wheat. The mountain's backhand sends Grey Worm sprawling across the sand. Blood runs from a cut above his eye. He rolls away as the great sword punches deep into the earth where his chest had been. Grey Worm springs to his feet, spear spinning like a silver wheel. The point finds gaps in the mountain's armor, drawing thin lines of dark blood. But Robert Strong feels no pain, shows no fatigue. He fights with the relentless fury of the undead. "This is madness," Tyrion mutters in the royal box. "Grey Worm is skilled, but that thing is not entirely human." Daenerys watches without expression. Her dragons cry overhead, but she makes no move to intervene. This is trial by combat, sacred and inviolate. The gods will choose the victor. In the arena, Grey Worm changes tactics. No more testing strikes or careful maneuvers. He attacks with the desperate fury of a man who knows he's losing. His spear becomes a blur of motion, striking faster than the eye can follow. Robert Strong staggers under the assault. Spear points find joints in his armor. Blood runs down his massive frame like red rain. But still, he presses forward, sword sweeping in great arcs that could split a man in half. Grey Worm leaps high, spear aimed at the mountain's throat. For one perfect moment, victory seems certain. Then Robert Strong's gauntleted hand closes around the spear shaft. The crack echoes across the arena like thunder. The spear breaks in two, leaving Grey Worm holding a useless stick. Robert Strong's sword rises like a silver moon seeking the sun. Time slows to honey. Cersei watches her champion's blade descend toward the finest unsullied warrior ever trained. Victory tastes like copper on her tongue. Then Grey Worm moves. The broken spear shaft drives up through the gap beneath Robert Strong's helm, through dead flesh and whatever passes for the mountain's brain. The point emerges from the back of his skull in a spray of black blood. Robert Strong freezes, sword raised, death suspended between one heartbeat and the next. Then he topples like a felled tree. 8 feet of armored death crashes to the sand and lies still. Whatever dark magic animated him flickers and dies. The arena explodes in noise, cheers, curses, the roar of gold changing hands as bets are settled. But Cersei hears none of it. Her champion is dead. Her cause is lost. Her life hangs by a thread thin as spider silk. Grey Worm pulls his broken weapon free and raises it toward the royal box. Blood runs down his face, but his eyes burn with victory's fire. "It is done," Daenerys announces, her voice carrying across the suddenly quiet arena. "The trial is concluded. Justice has been served." Guards escort Cersei from the preparation chambers to the arena floor. Sand clings to her dress as she approaches the Dragon Queen's box. Behind her, Qyburn carries his leather satchel like a merchant bearing precious goods. "You fought well," Daenerys says, descending to the arena floor. "Your champion was formidable." "He was death itself," Cersei replies, "but death, it seems, can be killed." "The trial has rendered judgment. You may choose permanent exile with full guarantees of safety. A comfortable life in Essos, far from the Game of Thrones." Daenerys' voice carries genuine offer of mercy. "Or you may face execution for your crimes." Cersei looks around the arena. Thousands of eyes watch her choice. In the royal box, Tyrion leans forward with something that might be concern. On the sand, Robert Strong's body lies broken and still. She thinks of her children, dead before their time. Of Jaime, somewhere far away, unaware his sister faces her final moments. Of the Iron Throne that should have been hers by right. "I choose death," Cersei says, her voice carrying across the silent arena. The crowds gasp. Even Daenerys seems surprised by the choice. Are you certain? Exile offers. Nothing I want. Cersei raises her chin with the pride that has defined her entire life. I am Cersei of House Lannister. I will not live as a beggar in foreign lands. Then it shall be as you wish. Daenerys gestures to Grey Worm. Make it quick. But before the Unsullied can move, Qyburn steps forward. Your Grace, if I may. A final request. Daenerys turns toward the old Maester. Speak. Allow me to tend to my queen's body after the sentence is carried out, for burial rites, according to the customs of her faith. Granted. Daenerys nods to Grey Worm. Proceed. Cersei closes her eyes as the spear rises. She thinks of lions running free in the Westerlands, of golden hair blowing in summer wind, of children's laughter echoing through the halls of Casterly Rock. The spear takes her in the heart. Quick, clean, merciful, Cersei Lannister dies in the sand of a foreign arena, far from home, far from the throne she dreamed of claiming. But death, as Qyburn knows, is not always the end. That night, in a chamber beneath the Red Temple, the old Maester works by candlelight. Vials bubble over flames while strange powders fill the air with acrid smoke. On the stone table, Cersei's body lies pale and still. Qyburn has studied death for decades. Now he applies everything he learned to his greatest experiment, the resurrection of a queen. Dawn finds him exhausted but triumphant. On the table, Cersei's eyes open, but they burn with fire that was never there in life. The queen is dead. Something else wears her face now. Something touched by flames and shadow. Something that remembers being Cersei but is no longer entirely human. My queen, Qyburn whispers. Welcome back. The thing that was Cersei sits up slowly. When she speaks, her voice carries the crackle of flames. The Dragon Queen thinks she has won, but fire cannot be killed by steel. Her smile shows teeth white as bone. The game is far from over. The arena falls silent as Daenerys Targaryen rises from her seat. Above, 3 dragons circle like harbingers of judgment. Drogon's roar echoes off stone walls, while Rhaegal and Viserion add their voices to the chorus of death. You chose death over exile, Daenerys says, her voice carrying across the hushed crowd. But a queen's death deserves a queen's execution. Grey Worm steps back at her gesture. The spear that took Cersei's life withdraws, leaving her body sprawled on bloodied sand. But this is not how the story ends. This is how it transforms. Daenerys raises her hand. High above, Drogon folds his wings and descends like a black thunderbolt. The great dragon lands with earth-shaking force, his eyes fixed on the woman who dared call herself Queen. Dracarys! Fire blooms in the arena like a crimson flower. Dragonfire hot enough to melt stone consumes Cersei's body in seconds. The crowd shields their eyes from heat that bakes the air itself. When the flames die, only ash remains scattered on blackened sand. It is finished, Daenerys announces. Let no one say the Dragon Queen lacks mercy or justice. But in the tunnels beneath the arena, Qyburn watches through hidden passages. His queen is dead, consumed by fire that would make even the Sept of Baelor seem like a candle's flame. Yet death has never been the end for those who serve the right masters. That night, while Volantis sleeps, the old Maester works with desperate purpose. He gathers every grain of ash from the arena floor, collecting the remains in jars of black glass. In his hidden laboratory beneath the Red Temple, stranger preparations begin. The ritual takes 3 days and 3 nights. Qyburn draws circles in ash and bone meal while chanting words that predate the conquest. Candles burn with flames of unnatural colors. Ingredients bubble in cauldrons that have never known clean water. Life for death, he whispers to the darkness. Fire for fire. Let what was consumed return as flame incarnate. The magic he attempts goes beyond anything he tried with Sir Robert Strong. The mountain's resurrection required only dead flesh and darker arts, but Cersei exists now only as ash and memory. To bring her back requires bargaining with powers that care nothing for human ambition. On the third night, as blood-red flames dance around the ritual circle, something stirs in the gathered ashes. Not life as mortals understand it. Something stranger, fiercer, touched by the same forces that animate dragons. The ashes swirl like a whirlwind of grey dust. They coalesce, taking shape, becoming solid. First bones of charcoal and ember, then flesh the colour of burnt copper. Finally, features that once belonged to Cersei Lannister, but now burn with inner fire. She opens eyes like green flames and draws breath that tastes of smoke and sulphur. When she speaks, her voice crackles like logs in a hearth. I remember burning. She sits up slowly, examining hands that glow faintly in the chamber's darkness. I remember the dragon's fire, but I am not dead. No, Your Grace. Qyburn kneels beside the ritual circle. You are something new, something between life and death, a fire white, touched by the same forces that give dragons their flame. Cersei stands on unsteady legs, her body relearning movement after death and resurrection. She feels different, lighter, as if part of her substance has become flame itself. What have you made me? Something that cannot be killed by fire, something that commands flame as others command steel. Qyburn's eyes gleam with scientific triumph. You died as a queen. You return as something greater. But with the change comes a price Qyburn does not mention. The ritual that gave her new life also bound her to him. She can feel the invisible chains around her will, subtle but unbreakable. She serves him now as much as he serves her. Where is the Dragon Queen? Preparing to sail for Westeros. She believes you dead and her path clear. Qyburn helps her stand. But fire cannot be so easily extinguished. Cersei moves to a mirror of polished bronze and studies her reflection. The face looking back is her own, but changed. Skin that seems to glow from within. Hair that moves like flames in a breeze that doesn't exist. Eyes that burn with literal fire. The dragons will not harm Mare now, she says, with growing understanding. Dragonfire cannot kill what Dragonfire has made. Precisely. You are immune to the Dragon Queen's greatest weapon. But what am I? Alive? Dead? Something else? You are what you choose to be. Qyburn gathers his ritual tools. But we must leave Volantis. Word of your return will spread quickly. They depart the city before dawn, using forgotten tunnels that lead to the harbour. A handful of loyal followers wait with a small ship, men who served Cersei in life and continue that service in whatever she has become. As Volantis fades behind them, Cersei stands at the ship's prow and watches the sunrise paint the sky red as blood. She feels the flames within her respond to the light, growing stronger as day breaks. "Where do we sail, Your Grace?" asks the captain, one of her few remaining guards. "East," Cersei says without hesitation. To gather allies who understand what fire can accomplish, the Dragon Queen thinks herself the only power in the world. She will learn otherwise. The ship cuts through calm waters toward an uncertain horizon. Behind them, Daenerys Targaryen prepares for conquest, believing her greatest rival lies as ash in a Volantis arena. She does not know that ash can burn. In her cabin, Cersei studies maps of the eastern world, Yitai, Ashai, the Shadowlands beyond the world's edge, places where stranger magics than dragons are said to dwell. If she must become a creature of fire and shadow to reclaim her birthright, so be it. She runs her fingers across the parchment, leaving scorch marks on the ancient maps. Whatever Qyburn has made her, she is no longer bound by mortal limitations. Fire burns in her veins. Flame dances at her command. The game continues. she whispers to herself. But the rules have changed. Meanwhile, in Volantis, reports reach Daenerys of strange fires burning in the night. Witnesses speak of flames that dance without fuel, of ash that moves like living things. The Dragon Queen dismisses such tales as superstition born from the spectacle of execution. Dead is dead, Tyrion assures her. Whatever else that woman was, she was still mortal. But Missandei, who knows more of Eastern mysteries than most, watches the eastern horizon with troubled eyes. In the ancient languages, she remembers stories of fire that thinks, flames that hate, ashes that remember. The Dragon Queen sails west toward conquest and crown. The Fire Queen sails east toward powers older than dragons. Between them, the world holds its breath. War approaches, not just the clash of armies or the roar of dragons, but something stranger, a conflict between ice and fire, life and death, Dragon Queen and Fire White. The Game of Thrones enters a new age, an age of magic and monsters, where death is not the end, but merely another beginning. And in that age, Cersei Lannister burns brighter than ever before. The Raven arrives from Old Town on wings black as winter. It bears news that changes everything, words that make dragons and fire queens seem like children's games. The Maester who receives it in Pentos reads the message 3 times before his shaking hands can break the seal and prepare copies for every corner of the known world. The Night King marches south. Cersei stands in the captain's cabin of her ship when Qyburn brings the message. 2 years of exile have passed like a fevered dream. 2 years of gathering allies in the shadow cities beyond Yiti. 2 years of learning to command the fire that burns within her undead flesh. Your Grace. Qyburn's voice carries the weight of apocalypse. Word from Westeros. The wall has fallen. The dead march toward Winterfell. The parchment feels cold in her burning hands. Jon Snow's words, written in his own script, call for unity against a threat that makes all human conflicts meaningless. White Walkers pour through the breach in their ancient barrier. The dead rise to serve ice and winter. How many? Cersei asks. Reports vary. 100,000, 200,000. Qyburn wrings his hands like an old woman. Perhaps more. The dead do not tire, do not hunger, do not fear. Cersei sets the letter aside and stares through the cabin window at waters dark as old blood. Her ship sails west at last, carrying strange allies gathered from the eastern reaches of the world. Fire priests from Ashai, shadow binders from the Twilight Lands, men who speak to flames and command ash. Turn toward Westeros, she tells the captain. Set course for Dragonstone. Your Grace? Qyburn looks confused. Surely we cannot mean to ally with the Dragon Queen fights the same enemy we face. Cersei's eyes burn brighter as anger kindles. Dead is dead, Qyburn, whether it serves ice or fire. Meanwhile, on Dragonstone, Daenerys Targaryen receives the same raven with different eyes. She has spent months preparing for conquest, gathering allies, planning the campaign that will place her on the Iron Throne. Now all those plans crumble like parchment in flames. We must sail north immediately, Jon Snow says from beside her throne. The king in the north has travelled south, seeking dragons to fight the dead. He finds a queen torn between conquest and duty. My armies are positioned for an assault on King's Landing, Daenerys replies. Months of planning mean nothing if the dead overrun Westeros before you claim it. Jon's voice carries the urgency of a man who has seen the Night King's power. Your Grace, this is not about thrones or crowns. This is about survival. Tyrion studies maps spread across the painted table. Red markers show Daenerys' forces, blue markers the enemies that await. But new black markers now crowd the north, representing an army that serves neither side. He's right, Tyrion says quietly. If we proceed with the original plan while the dead march south, we might win a throne ruling over corpses. Daenerys rises from the Dragonstone throne, moving to the great window that overlooks Blackwater Bay. Her dragons circle overhead, sensing their mother's turmoil. Below, ships filled with Unsullied and Dothraki await orders that will never come. "Send word to our allies," she says finally. "Tell them we sail for the north. The Iron Throne can wait. The dead will not." That same night, as ravens carry word of the changed plans, another message reaches Dragonstone. A ship flying strange banners approaches under a flag of truce. Its captain requests immediate audience with the Dragon Queen. "Who sails under such banners?" Daenerys asks the harbour master. "Unknown, Your Grace, but the ship burns with lights that never dim, and witnesses swear they saw a woman who glows like flame itself." Daenerys' blood turns to ice despite the warmth of dragon fire. She knows only one woman who might fit such a description. But that woman died in Volantis, consumed by dragonfire before thousands of witnesses. The ship docks as midnight bells toll across Dragonstone. Guards in ceremonial armor escort the delegation through ancient halls where Targaryen kings once planned conquest. The woman who leads them moves with fluid grace, her every step leaving brief scorch marks on stone floors. Cersei Lannister enters the throne room like a creature from fever dreams. Her skin glows with inner fire, while her eyes burn like emeralds in a forge. She wears simple traveling clothes, but power radiates from her like heat from a hearth, Your Grace. Cersei's bow holds mockery wrapped in courtesy. "How good to see you again." Daenerys grips the arms of her throne, fighting to control her shock. "You're dead. I watched you burn." Death is not always permanent, as those who follow the Night King understand all too well. Cersei straightens, meeting the Dragon Queen's eyes without flinching. "I come seeking alliance against our common enemy." "Alliance?" Tyrion steps forward, his face pale as parchment. "Sister, what have you become?" "Something stronger than what I was. Something the dead cannot touch or turn." Cersei's smile shows teeth white as bone. "I am immune to the Night King's power, just as I am immune to dragonfire." The implications ripple through the throne room like stones cast in still water. Every person present understands what such immunity might mean in the coming war. "You expect me to trust the woman who burned the Sept of Baelor?" Daenerys asks. "I expect you to trust the woman who can walk among whites without being converted, who can command fire as you command dragons." Cersei spreads her hands, flames dancing briefly between her fingers. "The dead fear fire above all else. I am fire incarnate." Jon Snow has remained silent through the exchange, but now he steps forward. "What do you propose?" "Simple alliance. My forces and yours against the Night King. When the dead are defeated, we settle our differences like civilized queens." Cersei's eyes find Daenerys. "One realm cannot serve two rulers, but one war can." Daenerys studies the woman she killed, now returned as something between life and death. Every instinct screams warnings. Every memory recalls Cersei's crimes, her cruelties, her burning of innocents. But the Night King cares nothing for human guilt or royal rivalries. The dead serve ice alone. Against such an enemy, even fire queens must sometimes ally with fire demons. "What forces do you command?" Daenerys asks. "Fire priests from Ashai, shadow binders from the Twilight Lands, men who speak to flames and bind spirits to their will." Cersei counts on burning fingers. 20,000 swords touched by Eastern magic. And myself. 20,000 against 200,000 dead. Fire spreads, Your Grace. One flame can kindle 1,000 others. One burning white can destroy a dozen frozen corpses. Cersei's smile grows predatory. The dead burn beautifully. That night, as strange alliances form in the throne room of Dragonstone, the Night King's army marches ever southward. Behind them, winter spreads like a plague. Before them, the living gather whatever weapons they can find. Dragons and fire queens, ice and flame. the dead and those who burn with life. The final war approaches, and in that war, old enemies must become new allies. Whether such alliances will hold when the greater threat passes remains to be seen. But tonight, on Dragonstone, queens of fire and ice prepare to stand together against the endless dark. The Game of Thrones has become something larger, stranger, more terrible than any who first played it could have imagined. War comes, and with it, the chance for redemption or damnation for all who draw breath in the 7 kingdoms and beyond. The armies of ice and fire converge on the fields beyond Winterfell, like storm fronts, meeting in terrible collision. To the north, the Night King's host spreads across the horizon like a plague of white death. Hundreds of thousands of wights march in perfect silence, their blue eyes glowing like frozen stars. To the south, dragons soar overhead, while Dothraki screamers pound the earth with iron hooves. Unsullied form perfect squares of bronze and steel. Between them march stranger forces, fire priests in crimson robes, shadowbinders whose very presence dims the light. At the center of it all, 2 queens ride side by side for the first time in their lives. Daenerys Targaryen sits astride Drogon, black wings cutting through grey sky. Cersei Lannister walks among her burning cohort, flames dancing at her fingertips. "Remember," Cersei calls up to the Dragon Queen, "the dead feel no fear, know no pain. They will not break unless we break them completely." Drogon roars his agreement, dragonfire painting the clouds crimson. Rhaegal and Viserion echo their brother's cry as they wheel through the air like harbingers of judgment. The Night King raises his ice spear, and his army surges forward like an avalanche of bone and rotted flesh. The ground shakes under countless feet as wights charge across the field. Behind them, lumber giants with eyes like blue stars, their massive clubs ready to crush the living. "Hold the line!" Jon Snow shouts from the front ranks. Longclaw gleams in his hands, while Northmen and wildlings press close around him. Ghost runs at his side, white fur standing stark against the grey morning. The armies clash with the sound of breaking worlds. Dragons dive like falling stars, dragonfire turning ranks of wights to ash and steam. But more dead pour forward to fill the gaps. Dothraki screamers smash into the undead horde, their araks cutting through rotted necks. But white hands drag riders from their horses, teeth finding throats. In the center of the melee, Cersei proves her worth. Fire streams from her hands in rivers of gold and crimson. Where she walks, wights burn like torches. Her very presence makes the dead recoil, their icy nature unable to touch her flame. "Stay close to the fire, Queen," a Dothraki blood rider shouts. "The dead fear her light." But the Night King has weapons beyond mere numbers. He raises his arms, and fallen Dothraki rise with blue eyes blazing. Dead unsullied, turn their spears on former brothers. The necromancy that animates them proves stronger than death itself, except for those who fall near Cersei. When wights strike down her fire priests, the corpses do not rise. When shadowbinders fall defending her flanks, they remain peacefully dead. The Night King's power cannot touch what fire has already claimed. "Do you see?" Cersei calls to Daenerys overhead. "Fire protects the dead as well as the living." But understanding comes too late for most of the army. Half the Dothraki horde turns against their former brothers. Unsullied ranks fragment as the dead rise behind their shields. Only around Cersei do the fallen stay fallen. The Night King notices too. He strides through the battlefield like winter incarnate, ice spear gleaming with cold light. His destination is clear. The Fire Queen who defies his greatest power. "He comes for you!" Qyburn shouts over the clash of steel. "Your Grace, we must retreat!" "No." Cersei's eyes burn brighter as the Night King approaches. "This ends here. This ends now." She reaches into her robes and withdraws a clay sphere, no larger than a child's fist. The wildfire within glows like liquid emerald, beautiful and terrible. Qyburn's final gift, his greatest creation. "What is that?" Jon Snow asks, falling back toward her position as whites overwhelm his line. "Concentrated wildfire, enough to level a city." Cersei's smile holds madness and purpose in equal measure, enough to burn away the cold forever. The Night King reaches them as the battle rages around their small circle. Up close, he is even more terrible than legends suggest. Ancient ice armor covers his frame, while cold radiates from him like heat from a forge. His sword moves with the lethal grace of winter itself. He strikes at Cersei, but she flows away like flame before wind. Fire streams from her hands, but ice armor turns the flames aside. They circle each other while armies die around them, fire and ice in perfect, deadly balance. "You cannot kill me with flame," the Night King speaks in a voice like cracking glaciers. "And I cannot touch what fire has made sacred. Perhaps not." Cersei leaps back as his spear cuts the air where her head was. "But we can both burn." She smashes the wildfire sphere against his chest as his blade takes her through the heart. Ice and fire meet in nuclear fusion as the concentrated wildfire explodes outward like a green sun born on Earth. The blast vaporizes everything for 100 yards. Whites, White Walkers, living men, all consumed in emerald flame that burns hotter than dragonfire, brighter than the sun itself. Daenerys pulls Drogon into a steep climb as the explosion rolls outward. Below them, the shockwave levels trees and scatters armies like leaves before a hurricane. When the flames die and the smoke clears, a great crater mars the earth where two armies once fought. In the crater's center, nothing remains. Not the Night King, not Cersei Lannister, not the ice spear or the fire that once burned in a dead queen's heart. The wildfire consumed them all, burning so hot it melted the very stones. Across the battlefield, silence falls like snow. Whites collapse as the magic that animated them dies with their creator. White Walkers crack like ice in spring. Their 1,000-year crusade ended in a moment of mutual destruction. Jon Snow rises from where the blast threw him, Longclaw still clutched in his hands. Around him, survivors pick themselves up from the smoking earth. Northmen and wildlings, Dothraki and Unsullied, all staring at the crater where winter died. "Is it over?" someone asks. The voice seems to come from very far away. Daenerys lands Drogon near the crater's edge and dismounts on shaking legs. The heat rising from the molten stone makes even dragon fire seem cool. Somewhere in that inferno, the woman she fought for years found her redemption. "She saved us," Daenerys says, quietly. "The woman I killed, the woman I hated. She saved us all." Tyrion limps over, his face blackened with soot and ash. Sister always did like dramatic endings. They stand in silence around the crater that marks the end of winter's long night. No songs will ever do justice to what happened here. No chronicles will fully capture the moment when fire and ice cancelled each other out, leaving only silence and the smell of burning stone. Meanwhile, across Westeros, people emerge from hiding to find the world changed forever. The dead are truly dead. Winter has passed. Spring waits just beyond the horizon. In King's Landing, bells ring out across the city as news of victory spreads. In the north, children who have never known summer look up at a sky free of falling snow. The Game of Thrones continues, but the players have changed. Queens of ice and fire have passed into legend. What remains are mortals with mortal ambitions, freed from the shadow of eternal winter. The long night is over. Dawn breaks across the 7 kingdoms, painting the sky gold and red like dragonfire, like the flames that once burned in a dead queen's heart. But that is a story for another day. Spring comes early to Westeros in the year following the long night's end. Where once endless winter threatened to bury the realm in ice and death, green shoots push through blackened soil. The scars of battle remain, but life returns to lands that thought they would never see warmth again. King's Landing bustles with preparation for a coronation 2 years in the making. Banners bearing the three-headed dragon hang from every tower, while merchants hawk their wares to visiting lords. The Iron Throne waits in the great hall, twisted metal gleaming in shafts of sunlight that stream through stained glass windows. Daenerys Targaryen walks the halls of the Red Keep like a woman in a dream. Victory tastes different than she imagined. Sweeter in some ways, more bitter in others. The crown she sought for so long feels heavier than gold should weigh. Your Grace. Tyrion approaches with the measured steps of a man who has learned to read his queen's moods. The lords are assembled. They await your pleasure. They await my coronation, Daenerys corrects. There's a difference. Through the windows of Maegor's Holdfast, she can see the great crater beyond the city walls. Where once the Sept of Baelor stood, only a blackened circle remains, a reminder of what fire can accomplish when mercy fails. The coronation proceeds with all the ceremony Westeros can muster. Lords who once plotted against Targaryen restoration now kneel before the Dragon Queen. Some bend the knee from genuine loyalty, others from simple pragmatism. All understand that dragons have returned to stay. I, Daenerys of House Targaryen, swear to guard the realm against all threats, foreign and domestic. She speaks the ancient words while the crown settles on her silver hair. To protect the innocent and punish the guilty, to rule with wisdom and strength in equal measure. The assembled lords echo their acknowledgement, but Daenerys's thoughts drift to a crater far to the north, where a woman she hated found redemption through sacrifice, where winter died in emerald flame. After the ceremony, she finds herself on the battlements overlooking Blackwater Bay. Drogon perches nearby, black wings folded against his massive frame. The great dragon seems subdued, perhaps sensing his mother's conflicted mood. Regrets, Your Grace? Tyrion joins her at the wall, wine cup in hand as always. Questions. Daenerys watches ships enter the harbour bearing grain from the Reach. About justice, about mercy, about the prices we pay for victory. You're thinking about her. I killed her, then she saved us all. Daenerys's laugh holds no humour. What does that make me? What does that make her? Human. Tyrion sips his wine thoughtfully. Flawed, complicated, capable of both great evil and unexpected grace, like all of us. Meanwhile, in the north, Jon Snow stands beside another crater, where the great battle reached its climax. Winter roses bloom around the edges now, their blue petals soft against the blackened stone. Here, where ice and fire cancelled each other out, something beautiful grows from devastation. The stonemasons say it will take 2 years to complete, Sam Tarly reports, unrolling architectural plans across a makeshift table. A monument worthy of what happened here. The plans show a circular memorial surrounding the crater's edge, pillars of black stone and white marble, intertwined like the fate of the 2 queens who died here. At the center, an eternal flame will burn in memory of those who gave their lives to end the long night. And the wall? Jon asks. Rebuilding proceeds apace. We've learned from the breach. The new construction will be stronger, warded against both ice and fire. Sam's excitement shows in his voice. We're incorporating knowledge from Ashai, techniques the fire priests shared before they departed. Jon nods approval. The wall served its purpose for 8,000 years. It can serve 8,000 more, protecting the realm from whatever threats might emerge from the true north. That evening, as the sun sets over the crater, a single rider approaches along the King's Road. Jaime Lannister dismounts slowly, his golden hand gleaming in the twilight. The journey from King's Landing has taken its toll, but he needed to see this place for himself. Qyburn waits beside the memorial site, one of the few who witnessed Cersei's transformation from beginning to end. The old Maester looks older now, his great experiment concluded in mutual destruction. Ser Jaime. Qyburn's bow holds genuine respect. I wondered if you would come. I had to see where Jaime's voice catches, where it ended. They walk together to the crater's edge, where molten stone has cooled into strange formations. Some say the patterns look like lions running free. Others see dragons taking flight. Perhaps both are true. She chose this, Jaime asks. She chose to end it, to stop the Night King, even if it meant her own destruction. Qyburn studies the memorial plans. In the end, she remembered what it meant to protect rather than simply possess. Jaime stares into the crater for a long moment. His twin sister, his other half, reduced to memory and melted stone. But the memory burns brighter than the flames that consumed her. She was always fire, he says finally. Even as a child, she burned brighter than anyone else. I just never imagined she would burn for others. Above them, the first stars appear in a sky free of falling snow. Somewhere in King's Landing, Queen Daenerys rules a realm at peace. Somewhere in the north, Jon Snow rebuilds walls against the darkness. Somewhere in the Vale, lords and ladies return to the simple business of governing without the shadow of eternal winter. The Game of Thrones continues, but the rules have changed. No more Ice Kings, no more Fire Queens, just mortals trying to build something better from the ashes of what came before. In the weeks that follow, pilgrims come from across the realm to see the crater where winter died. They leave flowers and prayers, candles and small offerings. Some pray to the Seven, others to the old gods. Still others to R'hllor, whose flames burned brightest when darkness threatened. They remember different things. The Dragon Queen who chose justice over revenge. The Bastard King who united the realm against impossible odds. The Fire Queen who chose redemption over survival. All of their stories are true. All of their memories matter. The memorial rises slowly, black stone and white marble reaching toward a sky that knows no supernatural threat. When it is completed, it will stand as long as Westeros endures, a reminder that even queens can change, even enemies can become saviors, and even the longest night must end in dawn. That's our theory. Westeros is a land filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey across the Seven Kingdoms and beyond, then please